Hey, this is Coach Sparks, and this is the second video in the side scroll game. Just kind of realized in the last one that we kind of named some things wrong. We are in a side scroll template, so we're just going to quickly, in this first part of this video, just rename some of these folders and characters and just make sure everything is good to go. That was my fault. I'd been working on a endless runner project as well, so sorry that I gave you the wrong thing. So let's quickly and easily fixable. So instead of this endless runner content, we're just going to click here, press F2, and we're just going to call this my content. That'll make it a little easier to remember. So we'll go inside of that folder here, and blueprints is fine. Make sure we reset the color. We'll open that up. And in here in our characters, we're just going to call this, we'll rename this character base instead. Okay, so character base, and we'll give this green color. We'll give our game mode this color. So in our game mode here, we'll just call this, rename that, let's call this my game mode. Okay, and that should take care of those naming conventions, so now we should be in good shape. Glad I saw that before we move forward on anything. So just real quickly, we're going to double click this and verify that our game mode is indeed using our character base, which in this case it is. So that is good. It's all we needed to make sure. And so we can close that, and we'll just quickly check our project settings and make sure that it's changed those names over for us. So open project settings, go to maps and modes, and there's my game mode, and it is using character base. So all that should be good to go, and now we'll be almost ready to get started. We can see right here, this is our typical side scroll character, which is not what we want to use. It's going to kind of use this character by default. So we're going to quickly just verify that it's going to use our character instead of this one. So if you double click into this character real quick and move over into the viewport, and I'm just going to add real quick, I'm just going to use a cube. I'm just going to add a cube and just drag it above our character's head here. And then we should be able to tell whether or not we're actually using our character or it's using the default side scroll character. So if we go over here now and we press the play button, we should spawn here, but I believe we'll spawn right here with this character, and our character should have this little box over its head. So when we hit play, sure enough, we're using this character here, and that is not the one we want. So the easy way to get rid of this is just click on this character here and press the delete key. And now here at this player start is where we should actually spawn, and our character should have this box over their head. So let's just try that. And we are not running. So let's double check here. Okay, so if you run into the situation when you hit play after you delete this character and it doesn't spawn in, one thing you can check is over here in your world settings, is you look down here at the game mode override, and sometimes this may happen where it doesn't pick up your project for some reason, but you can just go right here to none, and you can just tell it to override and go to my game mode, and then it should pick all this stuff up, and then when you hit play it should open up your character. So of course this is our character here. It's got the big box over his head, so we know it's actually using the correct character now. So we can jump back in here and we can just delete that because we don't really need that. Just wanted to see that it was actually working. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is start setting this character up, set some variables, kind of set up a little our health system for it. and things like that. So we're going to go back over here to the variable section, and we're going to add some variables. So right here on the side, you'll want to click this little button for variables, and we're just going to call this health. This will track our character's health. And for the type, over here we want to change this to a float type, and so this will be a float, and we can add a little tooltip here. It says tracks the character's current health. Okay, and we're going to go ahead, we're not going to worry about, does it need to be exposed on spawn or private or anything like that. For category, you got default, and we have my character and character. We're just going to create a new one, so just click in here. We'll call this some player stats, and that will place it in its own drop these down. That'll place it in its own category there, so that'll make things a little bit easier to organize for different stats. And you do have to compile your blueprint here. Replication would be if we were doing a multiplayer type game, we would need to replicate things. Where it says here default value, please compile the blueprint. If we press the compile button up here, we can see our health is at 0.0. So float, of course, allows you to use decimal values. So we're going to click in here, and we're just going to make this a default of 100. That'll be important when we create a health bar. So that'll take care of that, and we're going to create another one here called max health. And max health here should still be a float. Tooltip, we're going to say this is the character's maximum health value. GH. Okay, we'll also place that one in the same player stats category, so you can click this little down arrow. Since we now have it created, we can select that, and don't need to do anything else for any of this. Compile our blueprint. In this case, we're going to make our max health the same as our regular health, and you'll see why we do that when we actually set up our functionality for a health bar that we display. So now we have health and max health, and we can compile that. And the reason we do these little tooltips, if you just mouse over that variable over here, it says just what we typed in, tracks the character's current health, and our max health says this is the character's maximum health value. So that's what those little tooltips are for. So you can do that in the functions. Anything that has that option, you can just type in some information to let you know what that actually is doing. Okay, so that's really all we need to do for these two for now. And now we can go ahead and set up like a little character damage function. So when we take some damage, we'll start and just do the simplest part of it first, and make sure that it's going to work correctly, and then we'll be able to use this function throughout our game. So to create a function, you just go right here to the function section and press this little plus function, and we'll just call this, and you go into this new graph for a new function, and we can name it right here. I'm just going to call this player damage. Okay, and so functions inside a function, you'll notice that these are purple, and gives the name up here, description, and different things like that. So this will description, let's just say this function will handle damage to the player. Okay, so that'll kind of take care of what this stuff here. So player damage, you see here, the description also gives us like the tooltip. This function will handle damage to the player. Category, we don't really need to change that. Down here, we're going to need one input, and that will allow us to input information into this function. So we can pass damage amounts in from other things, hazards, enemy characters, things like that. So we're going to click new parameter on input. That will add an input here, and we're going to name this damage received. And call it a float. No, let's make that. Let's call this damage amount. It might make a little more sense. Okay, and so this will be a float type. So this will allow us to take information in here and work it into this function. So we're gonna when this function gets called, we're going to set our health. So a couple ways to set health or set variables or get variables. You can, when you drag it out from your components section over here, you let go, it gives you the option for get or set. Cancel that. And if I click it here, hold the Alt key down, it will give me a set automatically. I don't have to choose. And I can go ahead and plug these execution pins in. And I'm also going to need a get health. So you can hold the control key is the way to get a get. So you can drag it out and we automatically get it as a get. So this is what a get looks like, and then obviously this is a set. So what we want to do next is we want to take our health. In this function, we're going to take our health, what it is currently. This will tell us what it currently is. And we're going to subtract. So if we pull out from that, this pin here gives us a wire, let go. And we can type in the minus key. So we want to do a float, minus float. So we'll take this float value and we will subtract whatever we plug in here from it. And so that will give us a result. So let's just say that this is 100 by default, and then we receive 10 damage. This would output here would output 90 in this case. And then whatever this is subtracted by whatever this is, and so on. So we're going to, if we do it just like this, that's really probably not the best process. Would work fine, but this could go into the negatives and things that might cause other problems. So what I generally like to do is to clamp this value. So we'll just drag off of this output and clamp the float value. And so whatever this value turns out to be, we're going to say the minimum being at 0, that means that it will never go below 0. Even if we said we had 1 health and we took 50 damage, it would still only give us 0 because of this function, even though this result would be like a negative 49. So that will prevent, and as we go through this function, this will work the way we're going to set it up. But the only problem we need is we got to look at this maximum value here. So right now it defaults to 1. So if we had 100 health, we took 10 damage, gives us a result of 90. If we didn't do anything else to this, what happened was our health will be reduced to 1, since that is the maximum value it will allow to return at the end of the function. So to fix that, we have this little max health value here. So we're just going to drag this out, and we're going to get it as well. And we're just going to simply plug it into the max here. So what will happen here is, no matter what our health is, and our health here should never be greater than our max health. So that will just prevent that maximum getting cut down to like 1 or something. So once we do that, we can just plug this in here, and now this result will be somewhere between 0 and our maximum health. So that will take care of that portion of that function. So then the next thing we need to do, just to test this little system, and we'll just kind of do this little test, and then we'll pretty much test it to make sure it works, and then we will probably end this video so it doesn't go too long, and in the next one we'll work on completing this, adding our health bar, and so on. So the quick easy way to debug this is just to come off right here, and we're going to do a print string. And this is used just for development, so it says development only. So what this will do, if we expand this down, this will allow us to print a message onto the screen. So once this function here completes, it's going to print something on the screen. In this case, it defaults to hello. So we're going to take this pin here, and we're just going to plug it in here, and it will convert that to a string for us. So whatever value it is, it's going to convert it, and it's going to print that on the screen for us. If you look down here, it says print to screen, print to the log, the text color. So since we're taking damage, let's just make it a red color. Zero all these out. So make it nice red. And we'll tell it to print for about 4 seconds instead. Okay. So once we do that, we can do a return node. It's always good to do a return. Return node, as you can see, it terminates the function's execution and returns the output parameter. So this will just terminate when it gets to this. It terminates this function, and so it doesn't continue to run. Okay. So we can quickly compile that, and to make this work, we'll do a quick test for it. And the way we're going to do that, we'll just go to our event graph here. And I always like to use, and we just got a very small amount of stuff here, just jump and move right and left. So to see if we can get some health, we're just going to go down here below, and I'm going to use the H key on my keyboard. So if I type in H and then a space, start typing in keyboard, you'll see it's keyboard events, and this will only be for testing. So H here, and then we take our player damage function from over here, we drag this out on the screen, and we'll see that, and take it from our press, plug it in the top. And here is our input that we created. It's called damage amount. Right now it defaults to 0, so we wouldn't get any damage taken away. So I'm just going to quickly type in 10 manually. And like I say, this is for testing purposes only. So we'll go ahead and comment this. So the way you remember to comment is to draw a box around by left clicking, and draw a box around the nodes that you want to comment, and then press the C key on your keyboard, and it'll come up comment. We'll just say test health damage system only. Okay. And we'll go ahead and we'll take this here and we'll say testing, and for testing purposes, let's make it this nice kind of teal color here. Something like that. And we'll just drag this up here to save it. So this will be a test function only. Okay, so when we press the H key, we should take 10 damage, and that should print on the screen. So let's try that out. So compile, save, we'll go out here, and your print strings should appear right up here in the upper left hand corner. So if we hit play, we'll see here, let me go ahead and F11 to full screen this so it's a little easier to see. And as I'm running back and forth and I press the H key on my keyboard, you'll notice now it says 90.0. So I took 10 damage, now it's at 80, so 70, 60, 50, 40, so on down, and then the next one should go to 0. Now we're at 0, we're taking 10 damage, it should stay at 0. So we can press that as many times as we want to, and it will always be 0. Okay, so obviously when we get to 0, we want something to happen for our characters instead of just continuing to play the game. So we'll set that part up in the next video, and add to that, and add us a health bar so we can visually see our health going down. So we'll kind of stop the video now, and we'll pick up in the next one.